Hello and welcome once again to the Let's Do a Crime podcast. Mouse is not joining us this week. There's no problem there. They're just too busy with school and stuff, so I'm going to have a few other co-hosts from now on. My name is Ryan, he, him.
My name is Aiden, he, they. A little bit about myself. I've lived near crime my whole life. I've witnessed a few amount of crimes. That's my experience with crime, other than Ryan's law enforcement experience. Other than that, I've been known to make a great emergency co-host, and I'm not busy with school, so that's why I'm here today. My background is entirely semi-professional gaming and lots of different industries, so I have a plethora of useless information I'm more than willing to give to today's podcast.
Yeah, I think that makes you overqualified to be a co-host here. The qualifications are be available.
Let's go.
I have a background in emergency services for over 10 years, including law enforcement, but I am not a police officer. So this week, yeah, I always specify that because even though I do work in law enforcement, I'm not a full bastard. I'm like a half bastard.
We take that. We take those.
Okay, so this week we're going to be going back to April of 2022. Work crews in Amiyavar village, India, begin using torches and heavy machinery to dismantle a bridge. The locals are pleased. This bridge was in severe disrepair, it was dangerous, and they had asked the government to address it. It takes nearly 3 days, and no one suspects that this is actually a brazen daytime heist.
So, stealing the bridge for parts, like we're stealing copper wire out of electric boxes? Is that what we're doing?
Essentially what's happening. They're stealing this for scrap metal.
Okay.
So, like, as you mentioned, copper gets stolen a lot because it's quite valuable as scrap.
Seen that happen in real time, yeah.
Yeah, catalytic converters, that's a big one right now. People keep stealing those.
Almost happened to me, yeah.
Yeah, and so, like, real simple, like, you break down the metal, you sell it to a scrap dealer, you get some money for it. Real simple concept.
Okay, so taking a whole bridge worth of scrap metal and offloading it the province over, or state over, sorry?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Like usually copper wire, copper pipe, or the rare metals and catalytic converters are targeted because they're quite valuable.
Okay.
Metals like steel aren't quite as valuable, so there needs to be a lot to be worth it. Of course, the steel bridge is a lot. Yeah.
Okay. All right, continue.
Locally, here in Edmonton, there are some local memorial plaques that were stolen just a couple of years ago, like at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yes.
I think.
Yes. The ones that aren't nailed and glued down and graffiti on are the ones that get ripped off and melted down. Absolutely.
Yeah. The best part is the guy was caught because obviously, like, this was a big news thing where he stole these plaques.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't melt them down. He just walked into a scrap dealer with these plaques and tried to sell them.
Yes.
So that's how he got caught. And when I was researching this, another funny thing I found is that apparently the British Railways have a huge problem with train signaling equipment being stolen. So,
okay.
So people will just show up in a pickup truck and just rip a huge piece of signaling equipment out of the ground and drag it off. And that's like a thing there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, sure then.
So yeah, familiar concept to you. You've no doubt seen it happen before. It's a big problem around here. So if we go back to Amiyavar village, the locals had requested the bridge be removed as it was a hazard. So another newer bridge had been built nearby already.
Okay.
Yeah, this bridge was built in 1976 and was over a canal. It was 18 meters long and 2 meters high, so like not that big of a bridge. It's just kind of just keep the road smooth, basically. And it had fallen into disrepair after the new bridge was built. The wood components of it had rotted away, the concrete was crumbling, and some of the metal had already been stolen, so like it was already starting to be dismantled. So the bridge was just at this point became a hazard. And bodies of cattle and even humans would get caught while floating downstream. Oh. And apparently the locals were mostly complaining because of the stench.
Okay.
So like
fair enough.
I do like that it's like, yeah, bodies keep getting caught in the bridge. Who cares where they come from? It just stinks.
I mean, I'm just imagining a bunch of people watching this bridge get dismantled and be so happy. And then the 10 dudes and the 4 trucks just loading as much metal as they can on there, thinking they made the best paydays
Oh
of the
yeah.
day.
So
But
I just love the image of like great, now the bodies will stop getting caught there and it'll be next town's problem. Uh, so a work crew of 5 people showed up, and were
okay, 5.
supervised by a man named Arvid Kumar, a part-time irrigation department employee. So apparently the irrigation
Okay.
department was responsible for the bridge, and so he claimed it was officially sanctioned. Which, I mean, they
Okay.
asked for it to be removed. He works for the irrigation department. Why would anyone question this, right?
Right. So it's one of those classic um I wouldn't call it government corruption, but like um using your government knowledge and credentials to kind of go rogue and do something
Oh,
not very
it's both
above board.
actually.
Okay.
So the crew used an excavator and torches. So like again, the proper way you would do it. They loaded the metal into a van. So it's unclear if they removed any of the other debris. They probably didn't. So I imagine they just like left a pile of old concrete and rotted wood and bodies, I guess, and then just threw all the scrap into the truck.
Okay.
So they took it to a scrap merchant. The work took 3 days, and no one questioned it while it was in progress. So now the question is, how is this a heist, and how are they caught if this wasn't legit?
Right.
So another man named Pawan Kumar lived in a nearby village and heard about the bridge being removed. He called an official at the irrigation department to inquire why procedures were not followed, uh, only to yeah, only to find out that the department itself was unaware of any work to the bridge had been approved.
Okay.
And so, what procedures weren't being followed? So,
A safety, I'm assuming, is one.
no, he didn't. He wasn't there for any of this. He just heard the bridge was being removed. So, apparently,
Oh.
in this area, any of this kind of work is supposed to be put up for a bid by local companies. Kumar, I guess, was like in charge of one of these companies, and had not seen any chance to bid on this contract. So,
Huh. So a guy who was completely pissed that he didn't get a slice of the pie
yeah, he's like,
called to complain about, hey, why did I get at least a chance to work on this with my crew? And that gave up the whole thing. That's amazing.
oh, 100%. He's like, God, you're not letting me bid on this. And like having worked in government, there is usually a bidding process for major projects.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, if you were supposed to be like part of a bid and you weren't like included, or like there had been some shading going on, you can usually like sue for compensation, which is what I imagine he was going
Wow.
for at this point.
Okay.
So the police were alerted. They conducted raids, seizing an excavator, torches, and a van with 247 kilograms of metal. So that's a lot of metal. Uh,
Jesus. How
yeah,
much does a kilo of metal go at a scrapyard?
I don't know in India. Kilo of steel. Let's look what a kilo of steel.
Yeah, assume here. And then we'll just like roughly guesstimate that it's somewhat similar over there.
So 1 kilogram of steel beams, which I imagine is probably the closest, would be about $4 a kilo. So
Okay, so $1,000.
$1,000. But I mean, keep in mind this is like middle of nowhere India. Like this isn't even like a major. This is like rural provinces. So, 1,000 Canadian bucks. Like, assuming their scrap metal prices are anywhere similar, it's probably a good chunk of change there.
Yeah, maybe.
But
Just thinking how many hours did 5 guys take to dismantle a full bridge? You know? But I guess maybe it's not a huge bridge like I'm thinking. Maybe it's a lot smaller if it's only 250 kilos.
yeah.
That
So
sounds like a small
but
bridge.
by the measurements they gave here, 18 meters long and 2 meters high. I'm thinking
Okay.
this would be similar to like some of the footbridges you see in the river valley.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
just kind of like it wouldn't be impossible for you just to like walk across the stream, but it's just not very safe.
Right. And that explains things and bodies and dead cattle getting caught.
Getting caught on it, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that raises more question of where the bodies are coming from, because like if you have like a major river, yeah, sure, you expect a body to be in every now and then from like people drowning or whatever, but like if it's a stream, that's really strange. People should not be dying in streams.
Okay, so overall, 5 dudes showed up on a random day or a weekend, pulled somewhere in the ballpark of $1,000 or more in just raw metal materials alone. And if guys are competing to do the job, I'm assuming that it's a lot more lucrative, right? Because if a guy was mad enough to call about it, so I think maybe I'm underselling this. Maybe it's a lot more than $1,000 equivalent, at least. You know what I'm trying to say, right? Where
Yeah.
it's like the money goes a lot farther, or they have a lot better rates for that scrap out there. Maybe they know a guy. Who knows?
Well, also, to add to this, so after the investigation started, 8 men were arrested, including Arvid, the irrigation official, and another
Wow.
irrigation official, Radhi Singh. The van owner and the scrapyard owner were also arrested. But according to another article I found, the officials were described as unwitting. So what I'm getting from this is that the irrigation officials got off as unwitting as if they didn't know what was going on, which I find to be
Okay.
bullshit because they would be the people who would know how you're supposed to do this.
So there's the corruption. Okay.
Yeah, so I guarantee that the workers who actually dismantled the bridge probably thought they were legit doing work, like they were just hired to come dismantle a bridge. So they probably got paid whatever the wages were at the time, which
Mm,
again, it's rural India, it's probably nothing. And if I had to put money on this, I would say these irrigation officials knew that this bridge had to come down, knew that the locals wanted it to come down,
right.
and knew that the scrap was valuable, and decided to circumvent the bidding process themselves and just hire some guys to take it down.
Mm-hmm.
But because of corruption, they're getting away with it. So they've exploited some workers, they stole a bunch of metal, and they're not getting punished for it.
Hmm.
The system works.
Everyone's happy.
Yeah, it's only a crime if you don't have a white collar.
Absolutely. So, I mean, that does imply that this is going on elsewhere, right? Like
Oh yeah,
government officials being tipped off, and then they keep the money, not in house, but they keep the money in the inner circle. Just,
yeah, we
I
are
wouldn't call it
one
pricing
paragraph
out.
into my script here.
Oh, so I'm getting ahead of myself, is what
Yeah.
you're saying.
So
Okay.
just shy of a month later, another bridge in the same region was stolen. This time it was an active bridge, not an abandoned one.
Oh,
So this is a
okay.
bridge that's being used.
Okay.
So this one was constructed in 2004. So 2004, this happened in 2022, I think. So no, this would have happened in, yeah, 2022. So it's construction in 2004. It's less than 20 years old then. That like that's still a new bridge if it's been built properly. So
Right.
this bridge was constructed to allow pilgrimage to the I'm gonna mess this up, Baydanyant temple.
Okay.
So this one was a big bridge. It was 80 feet long and 15 feet wide.
Woof.
Yeah. Once again, the thieves arrived as a work crew claiming to be from the irrigation department. Yeah, so this one was actually like a big problem because it was an active in use bridge and it was a fairly large bridge. And from what I can tell, it only serviced this temple, but it was out in the middle of nowhere. So, given that these are Indian news stories, I'm not finding a whole lot of English language articles. I
Right.
can't find if the bridge was ever rebuilt or what happened with the investigation, other than the fact that the bridge is gone now. Yeah.
How long does it say how long it took them? Was the bridge gone overnight? Was it like half dismantled in a day? Like what was the
I
whole?
think that they don't know exactly because whereas the other bridge was a small one near a town, so people saw this all happening, this one was really in the middle of nowhere. So I have a feeling that probably this bridge is not used every day and there's not people because it's just to get to this one temple. So it could have taken days, could have taken weeks, and it's possible that very few people actually passed by.
Hmm.
And then apparently there was another bridge stolen the same way in the area, but I couldn't find any actual English articles, only mentions of it in other articles. So it looks like 3 bridges were stolen the same way in the same area in a short amount of time.
Okay, so it's definitely more than just one event. It is
Yeah, this
It is organized, an organized bridge payday 2 squad,
yeah,
is
yeah,
what you're telling me.
yeah. We've got organized crime, bridge thefts, Grand Theft Bridge, and of course, this phenomenon is not limited to India.
Okay.
Pennsylvania, USA.
What?
Yeah, a bridge that was ironically closed due to nearby copper thefts goes missing. Just missing. Just people go out there one day and this bridge that's closed, so no one was using it.
Mm.
Just gone. Uh, Newcastle Development, a corporation that owns the land the bridge was on, states that they had seen it on April 27th, 2011, just 10 days before they discovered it was missing. The bridge was over 100 years old and weighed 40 tons.
So, what I'm also thinking about, right, is obviously for this to be happened and to be caught, this has happened multiple other times with probably hasn't been caught. But I'm imagining that the stealing bridge market in the US is probably maybe not as lucrative as in India, but way more repeatable simply because, especially Pennsylvania, is littered with ancient old wrought iron bridges that barely get touched because the entire US transportation system, like the big like freight trains and everything, they completely don't maintain the tracks, they don't maintain the bridges. Pittsburgh is known to have, the most in disrepair bridges in all the United States, right? So
Oh
I
yeah,
don't know.
like it's a known even up here in Canada, which isn't as much of a problem, but I know that if they decide to start using an old rail line again that they haven't used in a few years,
Mm-hmm.
they actually have to send inspectors down to inspect every inch of the track because like it was a thing for a while to like steal pieces of the rail.
Oh,
And
just pieces. Just take a chunk of them.
well, I remember there used to be some YouTube videos about like how to turn an old rail tie into like an anvil. And it's like, where are you getting these
Okay.
rail ties? Are you just like wandering out to the track and cutting off a slice?
Yeah, I guess just like take a quick 10, 20 minute drive to the trail into the train tracks,
Yeah, bring your
walk for
favorite
10
angle
minutes,
grinder, have a day of it.
take a chunk out, back in the car on the way home.
So
Unreal.
so yeah, like Pennsylvania area, yeah, like you said, it's littered with old bridges. A lot of them aren't used. This one, I guess, was in good shape. It was only shut down because like the area that was being developed had old structures in it that people kept going in and stealing copper from. So they closed the
Okay.
bridge to like mitigate that, and then they just stole the bridge.
Of course.
So
Because of course.
yeah, this theft was not witnessed as it was a remote area and was not used regularly. Like there was no population in this area. It was all being redeveloped. So Gary Bruce, a spokesperson with Newcastle Development, stated he believed it was probably removed over a few days, and stated you could see blowtorch marks on what was left of the foundations.
I'd hope it'd be a few days. I would. I wouldn't. I don't know. I would be really surprised if someone could dismantle a bridge in a day.
I,
That's
I'm
a
actually
lot.
like, I'm actually a little bit disappointed at the blowtorch marks because like someone planned ahead and brought like cutting torches and like cut down this bridge.
Right.
It would have been much funnier if they like came back and saw a bunch of like burned up sawzall blades. That would be hilarious.
Yeah, just 2-person saw and just take your time with it, right?
Just go hit up a
And,
construction site, steal some contractor equipment, ruin it,
of
trying to cut
course.
down a 100-year-old wrought iron bridge.
Beautiful. Okay, so first off, we have dudes in India doing government corruption to steal like $1,000 to $2,000 worth of scrap metal, right, for a quick buck. Then we have dudes in the United States going to abandoned bridges on state land in Pennsylvania. Did they get caught, or was it more just it was reported that there's bridges missing in the least maintained bridge area of the United States?
Oh
Or
no,
was that
they were caught as you'd expect from low level criminals. They didn't cover their tracks very well.
okay?
So I have a line here that this type of crime is exponentially more expensive than the thief's profit. So Rebuilding the bridge would cost probably around $100,000, according to Bruce.
Okay.
But the scrap metal is worth like $6,000 or $7,000.
Okay.
So like that's a huge loss that they like. Even if they got the metal back, they can't recover any of that.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the thieves didn't get away from long. So by October 15th, which is the date of the article, I couldn't find the actual date this happened, but the article was on the 15th. Two brothers, Benjamin Arthur Jones and Alexander Williams Jones, which like three first name having guys, but whatever. I kind of expect, like, no offense to people with like a first name as a last name, but like this is like a Bugs Bunny cartoon almost. They stole a bridge. So so they were arrested after a scrap metal recycler contacted police. Now, contrary to popular belief, a lot of scrap metal recyclers aren't in on the crime. They kind of know that some of their metal's stolen, but when something's obviously stolen, they will call police.
Right.
So, for something this big, like, I've been involved in like some big projects like renovations and stuff of like industrial buildings, and for scrap metal like this, like, you don't just have a bunch of guys on a pickup truck rolling in to like sell the scrap from it. Like you hire the scrap metal company to bring a bin to you at the site. So it's really unusual for people to bring in this much themselves. So,
okay, that makes more sense.
yeah. So in September they sold about 15 tons of the metal, and the company became suspicious of how they had so much metal. The brothers told them that they had permission to sell a bridge. And so the company contacted the police.
Oh, am I allowed to swear on your podcast?
Oh yeah, you can swear.
Fuck off. It's like that sounds just like you went and robbed an abandoned warehouse, right? And you went to a pawn shop and you're starting to sell this stuff and they're like, "Hey, where'd you get this?" And they're like, "Yeah, I just kind of broke into that abandoned warehouse over there."
Yeah, I
And the
fell off the
guy
back of the
behind the
warehouse.
counter is like, "Okay, well, you've now forced my hand to write a police report." Right? Because they, like, pawn shops are I would say on the decent cusp of being sketchy, but
Oh yeah.
they can only just look if it's marked as stolen. They really can't do much more. But I just think it's extremely funny to me that they're like, "Oh yeah, it just kind of we were totally allowed to steal that bridge." By the way, it's like, man, just
Oh,
I
pawn
don't know.
shops.
Maybe think of a better lie. I don't know.
So when I was a teenager, I used to one way I'd make money is I'd go to pawn shops and buy electronics that like the pawn shop didn't know what they were, so they sold to me
Right.
for nothing, right? And then I turn around eBay and sell them for what they were actually worth. And so
Nice.
doing this, I got to know some of the pawn shops, and I got a job. One of my first jobs was actually at a pawn shop, and I worked there for one day, and it's entirely because of how sketchy it was. So we had a guy come in that, like, not to stereotype, but like, it was wearing ragged clothes, like,
Oh yeah.
dirty kind of thing. So like, probably living on the street. But he came in with a laptop that was turned on. He had no
Okay.
power cord for, had no password for it, and had like a barcode asset tag on the back
So
that you would
definitely
see.
not from the Best Buy down the street. That's what you're
Yeah,
saying.
so you probably just like yanked it from some office environment, right?
Sure.
And so of course, I'm a teenager. Don't really know how to handle this, and I did my best customer service voice, be like, "Well, I'm new here. I need to go get my manager." So I go into the back, grab the manager, and be like, "Hey, this guy brought in a laptop that's definitely stolen. You want me to call police?" And
Mhm.
the manager says, "No, don't call the police. You'll scare off our customers." And I was like, "Oh," I
True.
was like, "Okay, what do you want me to do with this guy then?" And he's like, "Well, it's like, offer him $50 for it, and then we'll put it on the layaway shelf because the police don't check the layaway shelf."
True.
And right, like, that's when I thought, no, I can't work here because, like, we could have refused to buy it. We could have bought it from him and contacted the police anyway, which is what you're supposed to do as a pawn shop. Is if you buy something you think is stolen, you contact police. Uh,
Mhm.
or sometimes the police will come in and check serial numbers, like to look for stolen
Yes.
property.
Yes.
But by
So, how many years ago was this? You worked at the pawn shop?
this would have been like 2006, 2007.
Okay, because to add on to that, now that we're in the bright, beautiful, full-on information age, they just have an automated system now, most pawn shops, where they automatically go into a directory the moment they process something in their system. The reason I know this is because my buddy works at a pawn shop, and the amount of stolen Walmart goods that gets put into that pawn shop, you would not believe. Um,
Oh, I would believe it.
well, I know you would believe it, but maybe some listeners would not believe it. For example, so in Wetaskiwin, right, 2 towns south of here, my buddy works at a pawn shop, and I drove all the way there to pick up Pokemon cards because they have a dedicated lady who goes to the Wetaskiwin Walmart. She will absolutely clear out that shelf and just dump them all at the pawn shop for a quick buck, like without fail, on routine. And what's crazy to me is that when I go to one of the Walmarts here in Edmonton, it's all locked behind a case. So I don't know if the Wetaskiwin Walmart just truly does not care, or she somehow can break into the case. Because if she could break into that case, I don't know. I think she's a I think she's a valuable asset to a lot of people, and I think she could have a great living.
So here's a little bit
for
of like
flippers.
industry insider knowledge.
Sure.
A lot of the keys of those cases are like universal.
Don't tell me that. I'm going to start robbing Walmarts for cards.
So like if they're smart, they'll have changed the locks and like have their own locks on them. But if they just
True.
left the default keying on there, then like yeah, someone can go on eBay, buy the key, and just like do whatever.
That's
Yeah, it is shocking in industry how often that happens. Like my plan for retirement gig is to do security auditing. And
okay.
because the fact that like 99% of the security problems with like any corporate environment aren't even like, you know, really clever criminals or like people knowing how to pick locks or like anything like that. It's just dumb shit like you didn't know that all your keys were the same key.
Right.
Like little stuff like that is like so easy to fix and just no one thinks of it until you show up and be like, yeah, I bought this key on eBay. It opens all your stuff. Maybe change your locks.
At my last job, the building is it's an office environment in a huge building that has other businesses in it, right? Normal downtown Edmonton stuff. There's like 3 unrelated businesses in the same building.
Yeah.
Right. Because the back door it's hard to explain, but essentially to get into my office environment, I would have to go through a key tag system, right? You scan the key, open the door. All right. It's very standard apartment building stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
And go to my office. But the back stairwell is connected to the rest of the building. And it's attached to a nightlife establishment. So I came to work on a Monday, and I guess someone over the weekend got access to the back like stairs and just didn't I wouldn't say like cleared out any offices because all the offices themselves were locked, but somehow got into some of the offices and some of the rooms and completely cleared out like a Christmas hamper and like a bunch of food and stuff like that over the weekend. All because apparently there was no way to secure this like back hallway because there's 3 businesses sharing it. So they would have to like all go to the corporate landlord, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I remember hearing all this and being just like, okay, cool. Like, I don't know. What's the point of us having this big fancy locked front door with a security camera and a key fob entry if someone can just waltz in the back door and just show up at my office and be like, hey, what's up? Like, what's the point at that rate?
Yeah, a surprising amount of security features are just like pure theater. Like it looks secure, but like if you think about it for 5 seconds, you're like, oh yeah, I can get through that so easy.
Yeah, learning a couple of years ago that people have a career breaking into places and finding security flaws isn't crazy when you think about it, but I found it very funny learning about it just because it's kind of like when ethical hacking became something you could get paid for, right? Trying to find vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Because it truly doesn't make sense. It's like, well, how you know if something's safe if you don't have someone who knows how to break into things breaking into it?
if you
It's
if
very
you want to
funny.
go into a real deep dive of this, there's a really great guy on YouTube who runs like a security testing company. His name is Deviant Olem, and
All
so
right.
he's got lots and lots of talks at like DEF CON, the hacker convention, and stuff like that, talking about physical security and how even though he's like a master lock picker, he never picks locks because he never has to because these places are just so insecure.
Oh, jeez.
There,
Okay.
there was one. I guess I could call it a security audit. It wasn't like I was investigating break-ins into this one office complex,
Okay.
and it just kept happening. And then like so I kind of did like a run through of their entries and exits, and I determined that the fire stairwell of the building, which was pretty easy to get into because it's a fire stairwell, uh, the one of their exits to it didn't lock. And I was like, well, why? And they're like, well, we're supposed to be a crossover floor for the fire code. And I'm like, yeah, but your stairwell goes right into your secure area or office, so it's just not locked.
Right.
So, and they're like, well, we put an alarm on it. And I'm like, well, who gets the alarm? It's like, well, security does. And then, the alarm wasn't even on the security system. And so I went and looked at this alarm, and it was one of those like screamer things you can buy from Home Depot for $1 and stick on the door. So like it wasn't an alarm; it just made a sound when someone opened the door. And I'm like, it took them about 5 seconds to figure out that no one is getting this alarm. Because like, what professional thieves will do sometimes is they'll come and like do something, or just like hang around someplace they shouldn't be, and see
Mm-hmm.
how long it takes someone to respond. And then if no one responds, then they'll target that for a hit later, right?
Right.
This is part of the reason why security guards, even the hands off ones that won't touch you, actually work because if someone shows up and says, "Hey, who are you?" they won't come back, right?
Right.
And so this little screamer did nothing, and yeah, so I had to help them get like a fire code variance to start locking that door, and their problem went away. But I'm just like, yeah, of course you were getting break-ins. You literally had an unlocked door that just went outside, basically.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay, back to our story.
Right.
I wasn't actually able to find if these guys were convicted, but I do know they were charged with felony theft, criminal mischief, and conspiracy. So
Well, conspiracy is an interesting one.
yeah, well, theft is a pretty straightforward one. Criminal mischief, like this happened in Pennsylvania. I don't know the law in Pennsylvania, but mischief in Canada is defined as anytime you do something to someone's property that renders it unusable or unsafe. So like
Yeah, I would track. Yeah.
yeah, so like if I were to go like pull the pins out of your door hinge so it falls on you when you open, that would be mischief, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's so removing a bridge that someone could potentially try to cross not knowing it's closed, that counts. Um, and conspiracy. So conspiracy is one that you don't see too often. It's kind of a weird charge. Basically, if two or more people like in secret get together to plan out a crime, that's a conspiracy. So conspiracy, like I think that charge would probably stick because there's at least two of these guys. There's the two brothers. But
Mm-hmm.
usually they try to charge conspiracy more when it's like, okay, if these guys had a deal with the scrap metal guy, then that would be conspiracy. But yeah, this seems like they're probably just throwing everything they can at these guys. So, and a little fun fact about this bridge. According to local folklore, it is haunted by a 1940s prom queen who died in a car accident on the bridge, and some say
What?
they've seen a girl in a prom dress dancing.
Okay.
Yeah, and I found this on the Find Law Illegal blog. So, little fun fact: they maybe stole a haunted bridge.
I wonder if the scrap metal's still haunted.
Yeah, if you put it, you go and put it in your 1940s recreation car, and now there's just a 1940s dead prom queen in your haunted car.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on ghost rules, but I've always wondered that, like, like if someone was a supernatural expert, I've always wanted to. If I've ever met one, I always want to ask them, like, well, if you have a haunted house, right, and from what I understand, most like semi-reasonable supernatural experts have some working theory that ghosts, spirits, whatever you want to call them, are anchored to a location because of their connection to it, right? And are the equivalent of like leftover energy stuck somewhere because of a strong emotion. So it's like, what happens when you like demolish an old house? Do the ghosts just like look at the empty foundation lot and just go, well, like nothing to haunt?
I'm gonna haunt this
Like,
Walmart now.
yeah, do they just go haunt a parking lot now? It's like, that's the part I always found funny. Um, I'm not going to get too grim with it, but like, let's just assume, someone built a parking lot over a burial ground, because that never happens. Um, I'm surprised I've never heard a report of, hey, I went to go like drive home after a long day at work and there was, the spirit of an old miner standing behind my car.
Yeah, because that's not fun.
Yeah, it's not
It's
fun.
fun to be
Maybe
like
just parking lots are like really not chill. Maybe ghosts are like us and we need like a roof and like a bathroom.
even ghosts are like, no, stop making parking lots. Fucking get transit in here.
Ghosts have standards, bud.
Ghosts are pro train. Remember that.
I will always remember.
What was that movie that with the evil car, Christine? Is that how they made Christine? Just make the car as a haunted metal?
What if we took all the haunted scrap metal, right, and then turned it into a house? Would then the prom queen haunt said house? Because it's like
what if we got scrap metal and scrap wood from like a whole bunch of different haunted places?
Made a golem?
and made a house of all. Could we just have like the most haunted house?
Make the Winchester house of all the haunted houses.
Are ghosts territorial? Will they fight for the house?
That's interesting. Would they? Would they fight? Like, this is we're doing Theseus's ship, but with haunted house.
Some TV network, one of those TV networks that does like the haunted, like the ghost hunter stuff. Give us a budget.
Oh,
we're gonna make the House of Theseus and make like UFC Ghost Edition.
Listen, watch her on YouTube. After Shane and Ryan, you got Aiden and Ryan.
Hey, it works.
They're building haunted effigies.
It's an Evangelion with ghosts.
Okay.
Okay, so, but of course we're not done yet. What's bigger than a bridge? So,
an actual building?
Close, but a senior prison official in Russia was detained under suspicion of stealing
a prison?
50 kilometers of highway.
Okay. I'm sorry. What are you gonna do with all this concrete? I'm assuming it's all concrete.
Yeah.
Right.
So the highway's in the Komi region. So Alexander Protopopov, which is like the most Russian name I've ever heard, who's the acting deputy chief of Russia's prison service, allegedly saw the removal of over 7,000 reinforced concrete slabs between 2014 and 2015. He was selling the actual slabs, so like I guess these roads are in areas where pavement doesn't work for whatever reason. So the roads are just made of like big concrete slabs, and so the slabs can be used to build other things. So he was just yanking them up and selling them, basically. He was charged with misappropriating state property using his official position, which seems like a real tame charge, given that he stole 50 kilometers of highway.
Extremely.
Yeah. No details on how he did this, but all the sources note that road construction in Russia is insanely corrupt. Like, to the point where I guess any given road they're making might be made of other stolen roads.
Yes, I've heard about that.
So if these slabs were haunted, could we make a haunted highway where like every square kilometer has a new ghost?
Oh my god, what if we had a haunted town made out of haunted material and a haunted highway? So you like drive onto it and it's like essentially Silent Hill, the movie,
and then
where the moment you cross that sign, but it's like the moment you cross that sign, everything is now haunted. Like it never leaves that barrier, right? Because they're like you said, they're territorial. So we need to make a haunted signpost, a haunted like entry gate, and then a haunted highway into a haunted town with like all services, including a haunted gas station. If we could find haunted gas, I think that would like let us mark up that by about like 100%. You know what I mean? Because you're buying haunted gas.
Well, if you
go,
like
go buy a haunted carburetor for your car.
Got like a haunted cornfield and like turn that to ethanol, you can use that as gas.
Ooh, I'm liking that. Or just haunted corn syrup.
So
Put in your food.
we need to buy Centralia, the place that everyone says Silent Hill's based on, which is not, by the way.
It's
But
not, yeah.
but
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, it's not.
we need to buy Centralia and then build our haunted town of Theseus here with its haunted roads and make Silent Hill
Real.
real.
Yeah, real Silent Hill.
So
Do what every other haunted house does and charge YouTubers 10 times the price just to visit.
yeah, just nickel and
Make
dime for everything. Be like, yeah, you gotta pay $10 to use the highway. Yeah, you gotta get
It's a haunted highway.
you gotta pay the ghost fee for the hotel. Yeah, ghost of service now.
Yeah, some rooms aren't available because the ghosts are living in there. All right.
Yeah, you don't want to piss off the ghosts. It's their house. They're here first.
Oh, you really want to? Okay, that's gonna be extra. You got to share the room with the ghost.
Yeah, you gotta pay the ghost
share. Made out of a ghost.
If you want to stay in that room, you gotta pay the ghost share the rent too.
Haunted sheets.
Their rent's real high because they have an eternal contract.
Okay, so guy in Russia stole a highway and sold the concrete slabs for, I'm assuming, next to nothing because it's concrete.
Yeah.
But is concrete mix hard to come by out in Russia? I don't get it.
Well, I think it's because they're because I'm assuming that these are preformed slabs, so the concrete mix probably isn't too expensive, but a preformed slab might be because it has to be cast in a mold and if the new LRT they're building on the west end there,
right?
They're not making the concrete on site. They're bringing in precast pieces, which for lots of engineering reasons, a precast piece can be a lot stronger and more efficient than casting it on site.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So this guy was just essentially taking up a highway, selling it as is to build another highway elsewhere.
Oh, probably. I imagine it might not even been the blocks he was selling that he was making money from. I imagine that since it's all construction corruption, he's probably getting a kickback from someone who's getting this cheap concrete from.
Yes, for sure. That makes more sense to me. It sounds like he's not making a raw profit. It sounds like he's doing someone a favor.
Yeah, so I imagine it's just the same as the Russian military, right? Because the Russian military has the second highest military budget in the world, second only to the U.S. Whereas the U.S. spends it on dumb shit like F-35s. Russia spends it on dumb shit like just pretending the World War II era AKs you're handing out are new and pocketing the money. So just everyone at every level is embezzling something. So by the time that those billions of dollars get to the front line, it's we have some expired meat product to put in your MREs.
Or it's the Pentagon just slush funded $1 trillion. So
to build me a helicopter that's also a plane. I don't care if it crashes a lot. It's cool.
So we'll just send another platoon out into the Afghani poppy field. It's okay. It's all right. It's all good.
So this bridge theft, this road theft of the same road happened once before in 2013. This time though, it wasn't a corrupt official. It was some 40-year-old man just stole 1 mile of road, apparently using a bulldozer forklift, and was caught by the police when they pulled over his trucks that were loaded with the slabs. So, yeah, the corrupt official stealing a whole road, it's absurd, but it kind of makes sense to me how they did that. Apparently, this guy just rolled up one day with his truck and his combination bulldozer forklift, and just stole some slabs.
Okay.
Russia.
Okay, we have 2 bridges, a highway. Does it get worse? Is there the holy grail of infrastructure robbery? Is that what you're leading up to here? Or?
I haven't found anything bigger than this road. The road is the last thing I have here, just because okay, I fundamentally understand stealing a bridge. It's just scrap metal, it's just like any other scrap metal theft. Right. But stealing a road, especially 50 kilometers of highway, it's just that's something that you wouldn't even make up as a joke. That's just How does it happen?
I'm just, I'm what I find mostly funny is when you talk about how long it took someone to notice. That's what I find the funniest because it started off with they knew immediately, right? Because they wanted the bridge gone,
Yeah.
right? And then it took a couple days because the bridge was remote to a temple, so it's not like it's active, but it's not like super active, right? And then you get to Pennsylvania, like state land, and it took them what 10 days,
Yeah, 10
right?
days was between
Roughly,
when they saw it and when they
right?
knew it was gone.
So I'm wondering how long it took them in Russia to notice 50 kilometers of highway.
Well, it's
Right.
it said between 2014 and 2015. So I'm gonna guess at least
Half a
months.
year?
Yeah, maybe up to a year. It took
So
them to
like
catch this
I can
guy.
imagine, right? Like let's say you're just some Russian dude, right? Your name's like Sergov or something, and you're doing some like really remote drive, right? Like I just did recently, where you take some random mountain highway. Like I can just imagine this guy in his like little European car, just driving up, taking the exit, and then he stops because there is just literally nothing. And he looks out in the distance and there's still nothing. So
Oh,
it's like
it, it's
what
it's very generous that you think he would have stopped. This this
well,
is
that's what I mean. It's not like he's a dude with a truck, right? He's just some guy in a little European commuter car and he lives in a city, right? But he's just trying to get somewhere remote. And you're just like, well, there's no fucking road. And then he just calls someone like, hey, there's no road here.
listen.
And
I
it
will
takes
tell
like
you,
3 months.
it doesn't matter what the car is. It is a fantastic off-roader if you don't give a shit about it. Just full send. Little Lada Niva just bouncing off of the holes where there was concrete before.
I'm just imagining this like late 90s early 2000s Volvo getting stuck in a snowbank like in 10 kilometers away from the nearest road. And this guy's like, yeah, I made a fucking great decision here.
That this, I imagine it's a lot like the transition from Alberta to Saskatchewan, where like you're still on the same highway. You haven't left the road, but the road quality has dropped so much that you're kind of wondering if you just went to Iraq. You're dodging potholes and like
You're
the
just
roads
on
are
a
held
dirt
together
road.
mostly by like faith.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine what like stolen highway looks like, right? Like, is this, you said there's slabs. That implies to me it's like bridged highway. You know what I mean? Like it's like elevated of some kind, which is why I imagine this guy taking an exit and it literally just drops off into nothing.
If this is like far enough north that it's like in tundra, it might literally just be like compacted soil with slabs sitting on top of it.
Yeah. So it
So
would just drop off.
yeah,
That's what I mean. It's like you can't just go off roading. You're just gonna dump off a cliff and go nose first into a ditch. Like
just gun it. You can make it. It's fine.
right, like I'm not assuming this is like flat like steppe road, right? Near like on like Western Mongolian border. Like this sounds like random northern highway. So that means as we know from, our northern highways, it's just elevated off the crappy ground it's on. That's crazy though. 50 kilometers. And he got a slap on the wrist. They were like, hey, for the theft of stealing 50 kilometers of state property to build 50 kilometers of state property elsewhere, you
Hey
get a community service. Have a nice day.
hey, don't do it again. You're being demoted. We're not gonna take the money away. We're just gonna pay you a little less for a while. And yeah, so that's all I have for this one. Uh,
Okay.
I looked and a lot of the articles that I found either pointed back to these same things or were so sparse on information for like other stolen infrastructure that like I couldn't really make a script out of it. It's like yeah, some guy stole a switch off a railway. No other details. It's like okay,
Yeah.
how do I talk about that, right? Until next time, I guess don't steal a road.
Or if you're going to steal a bridge or a road, do it better than these guys, right? Have a sketchy scrap dealer lined up, then go, loot an old bridge,
Or
Minecraft style.
maybe don't take it all the same scrap dealer in one day.
So I got to get them on your side.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, hey, buddy, I'm gonna drop off a whole bridge, but you can't tattle on me. We good? And then
Pinky swear to me you're
next
not gonna tell the cops.
pinky swear, you're not gonna tell the cops. I scrapped an old bridge out in, wherever count like buttfuck county, right? Just to bring it all back, and the cops are waiting for you, just to make like A grand in a day's work.
Yeah, just we're gonna give you a ticket for littering.
But this does seem one of those really interesting crimes that have like it's a Venn diagram of multiple circles, right? Where it's like not only is the crime difficult, right? It's not like, drug dealing where it's like, oh, I sell a product, I receive money, that's it, that's all. The risk is the danger there, right? This is like you need a team, you need power tools, specialized tools, many hours of availability and hard labor, and then you need someone to offload all this to, and your return on investment is minimal, and the damage causes immense, so it becomes immediate notice to the property enforcers, that is the police force. So it's one of those crimes. It's like, what do you really get out of this? I feel like there might be easier ways to illegally gain like a quick 1,000, 2,000 bucks between five dudes. You know what I mean? Like start an NFT or something. You know what I mean? Like do a rug pull. At least you'll make five figures that way.
I'm gonna guess at least
Right?
with the Indian ones that the guys actually dismantling the bridge probably didn't know anything about the crime and were just like
Mm.
hired labor. And
Oh, absolutely.
given that the people who hired them are scumbags, they probably didn't get paid. So
Yeah, or got paid much less than the actual scrap metal was worth. Absolutely.
yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. Okay, bye.
Bye.